Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story, the whole series based after my book, Stories from Web. I'm Todd Nesloney, your host, and each week I try to bring you different educators, people, all kinds of things, people who have inspired or encouraged or challenged me in one way or another. I am thrilled this week to bring my friend and special guest, Dana Boyd. Dana, why don't you tell everybody a little about who you are?
Hi, Todd. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Dana Boyd. I am coming to you from El Paso, Texas. I'm currently finishing my 10th year as an elementary school principal, my 20th year in education. Just teaching a purpose that God has given me. To be honest with you, there's not a day that goes by that I know that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, what He put me on this earth. Started as a first grade teacher, first grade, second grade, third grade, and then got promoted as assistant principal in the same school that I was actually a teacher. So that was a bit difficult, but you know what? The people that you used to kick it with are now the people that you're going to have to evaluate. So that was an experience, but made some great relationships and great growth. And now I'm extremely blessed to be at the school that I'm at in El Paso, Texas, East Point Elementary. Through this journey, I've had the opportunity to be the 2007 Texas Teacher of the Year, and then also the 2017 National Distinguished Principal for the state of Texas. So you know what? With good works comes some praises, but it's all in doing what I love doing.
So one of the reasons, so for those of you who may be listening or watching today, Dana is like one of my principal heroes, and so anytime I get to chat with her or have any kind of interactions with her, it's just such a blessing for what she brings to the table. But Dana, you have been in education for 20 years. Did you always know that you were going to be an educator, or was it kind of something you kind of fought along the way?
No, I think as a kid, my mom told me I played school, had the little blackboard in my room, but actually I went to college. I thought I was going to be an accountant and failed the first semester of college and said, well, you know what, I guess you're going to be a teacher was what you wanted to do, Dana. Yep. So, from that point, just accounting was not my calling. And from the first education class that I took at the university, I knew that I was where I was supposed to be. And that's where that path led, and everybody says when you're a teacher, I'll never be an administrator. We all say that. No way, I'm not going to the dark side. And you know what? I just feel that when you get that itch to be able to make your purpose at a bigger place, that's what happens when you have an impact. It's not being about arrogance. It's just that you know that you can make a difference in a bigger perspective or more lives. So that's the path that I decided to take and haven't looked back since then, but also remembering what it feels like to be a teacher, not losing that perspective as you go up the chain.
Well, Dana, that's so interesting that you bring that up because, when I made that leap from classroom teacher to administration, I was terrified that I was going to be losing my interactions with kids, that it wouldn't be the same, that I wouldn't love it as much. And I found myself absolutely falling in love with being an administrator. It was different.
Right.
But the impact you can have and my eyes that were open to what an administrator truly does outside of what they're often viewed as doing. Did you find yourself when you made that transition as it being really eye-opening for you as well?
You know what, I would say as an assistant principal, it wasn't, because I was at the campus in which I was a teacher. So the hardest part was just not being able to have the conversations that I had before with the teachers, because it's just different. But I was really big on the relationships. So I had a great rapport with the parents and the faculty already there. So it was an easy transition for me because I was at the school that I taught at. So I knew what the vision was. I knew what the culture was like. And it was just kind of stepping in and in another role. So that transition was not hard for me as far as instruction and things of that nature, because I knew where our vision was and what we wanted to do. When I became a principal in November, I was like, holy shakazolie, like what did I just do? Especially coming in November. But I started with building on the relationships, because if you don't have the relationships with your faculty, your staff, your custodians, your cafeteria personnel, then you're doomed. So that was really my first year. There were some changes academically or instructionally that had to be done, but it was really that first year. I took the first month calling each person in and saying, what is it that you value? What's important to you, and what is it that you're looking for in a principal? That was really my first month, having those one-on-one conversations with the entire faculty, and then me following through on what was some of the things that they said was important, that I had to make sure that I captured those things with them so that I validated what it was that they said was important to them. So that's how I survived the first year.
So you've had quite the interesting accolade with being the Texas Teacher of the Year and then the Distinguished Principal of the Year for Texas as well. What do you think those experiences taught you about yourself?
You know what? I would probably say that I was not as big as an advocate for education as I should be, because there is the policies that happen that when a lot of us as educators don't know all the behind the scenes that happens, and we don't advocate for ourselves, or we don't keep up with bills that are going on or legislation that's happening. So I really believe that was the eye opener for me about the broader side of education that we really didn't have any clue about. You know, people just tell you vote for textbooks and you're like, okay, but you know, there's life beyond textbooks that really affect us. And I think that that was something, you know, in really being a part of, you know, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but with TEPSA, where it's opened up my eyes to be able to look at the advocacy that we, just not as principals, but as educators, we have such a huge voice that we are too silent about. So those experiences gave me the confidence to be able to advocate and to be able to speak up, because so many times we're quiet and we don't say anything and we go along with what's okay. And decisions are made for us a lot of times by people who are not even in education. So that's the biggest thing that, you know, I learned. Of course, you meet great people and you have experiences, but just that empowerment that we have and the rights that we have, I think that was my biggest growth.
So, you know, you're very chill over here right now, Dana, but I know you and know that I've seen videos. You got dance moves that I'm so jealous of. You play pranks on the staff. I mean, you do all these great things that really bring in your personality to your school. Why do you feel that that's important, that playful side of yourself comes out at the school as well?
You know, I just think that people need to see that we're human. I also felt, to be honest with you, as an African-American female, that a lot of stereotypes are seen of us. And I wanted people to be able to see me beyond the color of my skin, to be able to see me as a person, that I can be funny. I can also be serious and like I said, advocate. But I believe that laughter is the best for the soul. And, you know, I am a prankster. You know, but relationships is the most important thing to me. And that's just who I am. I'm crazy, kind of say, in a good way, you know, because I just think when things are tense, laughter is what brings us all together, you know, and I just feel, and I don't know where that came from, to be honest with you, because my parents are like quite rigid and they're not like that. But that was a relationship that I had with my kids. It was tough love, but we also had fun in the classroom, and the expectations were high, but they knew, like, no matter what, Miss Boyd's going to have your back.
Right.
And I think I can say every teacher might not agree with every decision that I've made, but they know that I'm going to have their back when times comes to it. I'm going to be there for them. I'm going to be at every funeral. When people are in the hospital, like you know, I'll give you my last dollar. And that's just because that's a value in the way that I was raised. And I think that that's just important for us to encapsulate that in our buildings.
Well, and what I love about this is not just you giving this idea of relationships lip service. I mean, whether it has been different prayer things you've organized or
Mhm.
meals or all kinds of things for the students that you serve, but also the staff. And what I loved, and I always think that I've seen the coolest thing you've done. And then I see what you shared that you did for your staff this week that
Yeah.
just blew my mind. Can you tell our listeners about what you did this week?
Sure, that was like the best feeling ever, 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 ever. And that actually came. It's a year in the making. I actually have these things that I call the shower moments, and my admin team hates it. That I'll say like, "Hey guys, I had one of my shower moments," and they're like, "Oh God, here she comes." But a year ago, during Principal Appreciation, they lined up the entire street in front of the school, and every single staff member gave me a rose, and every kid lined up, and they just had so many things to say about me and the love that was given to me. Through this year, it's been tough. We were a tier 3 campus because of our scores, and you lose who you are as a principal. You feel like a failure. You have shame. You become angry because the test begins to identify who you are when that's not who you are, who your teachers are. So it was rough, to be honest with you. And we started bold, and I was angry, and I was like, this just sucks, to be honest with you. But through the building of the relationships and becoming soft and saying, that test is not going to be able to define us, really love started to come through at the campus. So yesterday, for the first day of teacher appreciation, we contacted every single instructional staff member, their mom, their dad, their brother, somebody from their family, and said, hey, we want you guys to be a part of the first day of teacher appreciation because you sacrifice so much as a family member in the life of an educator, and we want you to be here on the first day that we kicked it off. So we asked all of them to be at the school between 6:30 and 6:45. We, had a special entrance for them, and they all came in, and then we asked them, please bring a bouquet of flowers or, some balloons to be able to present to them. Our teachers had no idea. I had them in the gym, and we lined every single one of them up in the hallways, and then we had my teachers go down the hallway. And there were so many tears of joy, of surprise. I had a staff member whose dad hadn't been in her life for 15 years. And he came and she just lost it. And that experience built so many relationships, and it was amazing. And they were surprised, and it didn't cost a thing but somebody's time. But the moment was made to show like we're all in this together. And I wanted them to know that I appreciated what they are. So it was amazing, Todd. I mean,
you're making me emotional now. I'm like trying to hold it together because it's crazy. But when I think of this, I think of, and I just saw it last week, on Survivor, like where these people are just like fighting and trying to do all this work, and then they haven't seen their families, and then Jeff Probst brings out the family members, and each one of them cries and hugs them.
Yes.
And know, I remember a couple of years ago, I had surprised my staff by writing Christmas cards to their family members instead of them. Right. And the tears and the phone calls that I got from a note, I can imagine seeing that person show up for them meant the world in that moment. And I think, we talk about these teacher appreciation days and weeks, and so much of the time it's just food or drink, this little gift. I think that what I love about what you did is you left a memory. You left a mark that they can't forget. So my question though is, what do you do if you have a staff member who you couldn't find anybody to show up?
So many of them, well, there was only 2 that we didn't have, somebody didn't confirm. So they had their kids with them. So we had the kids come out and say, hey, we need your help with something. Can you help us with this? So their kiddo, and we bought extra flowers. So their kids presented it to them. Someone's husband had to work and couldn't get out, but we let them know, like, we tried our hardest. We were even going to write notes to bosses at work because we were going to get everybody there. And you know what? It was just 2 that weren't able to make it, and just because they couldn't get off, and they have to be able to provide the money for their family. So you can't dispute that. But they were so touched by seeing other family members there, and the other family members embrace them, because we have a motto that says we are one. And that showed like we truly are one, because there is no words. And what I said is, usually people get together like this at funerals and we say nice things, or we cry, or we give flowers. Like, my thing is, give people flowers while they are alive and can smell them, and be able to appreciate them. It's too late when we're at a funeral and we're saying, oh my God, Todd was just an awesome guy. You need to be able to hear that while you can say, you know, thank you for that. And that's what we wanted to bring on that day for them.
I mean, I just can't get over. I mean, I saw the photos this morning online, and I was like, oh my God, Dana blew my mind again. And I just keep thinking about how emotional I would have been that day, whether it was the teacher or even the administrator putting it together. And I'm just like, I don't even know if I could teach that day, because I would just be so like overwhelmed.
It was
and love.
Yes. And you know, there were wives that were like shady, like their husband saying, yeah, I got a meeting at 6:30, and they're excuse me, like, what are you talking about? You never leave at 6:30. So we had a lot of shadiness going on too. And then when they saw them, they're like, oh, thank you, baby. Where before it was like, where the hell are you going at 6:30 in the morning? You know, so it was great for them to be able. I had a staff member's husband works at FedEx, so he went in at 1:30 in the morning so he could take his lunch break during this time, so he could be there. You know, so it was just sacrifices made on the family members' time too, to be able to be here. But it was just that important for them to be here for that moment, for, you know, for their family member.
I love that. And you know, what I love about that too is, you alluded to it a minute ago where you talked about how difficult this year has been. And you know, I know that as I watch the news and experience it myself in my own school, whether it is wages or the rights of educators, or even these test scores that are so definitive of who we are, even when you have people like me and you who we can speak to, don't let the scores define you, do what's best for kids. But when those scores come back and they're not what they don't match the effort that you and your team have put in, it's debilitating, and you feel like a loser, and you feel like, and you're like, no, I know these don't define me, but God, we didn't get where we wanted to be, even if it was better than what it was before. You just beat yourself up over this. And I know, you know, your school has struggled through some other things this year as well. Can you kind of talk about what that path has been like this year, and how do you not only keep your team motivated, but how do you keep yourself going and fighting every day when it just feels so insurmountable sometimes, emotionally and academically?
Right. So you said a lot. You know, it makes it touches my heart, because it hurt for them to say, well, you're a D school, and then, well, you get a little bit of free points, so now you're a C. And I know how hard myself, my admin team, but most importantly, the teachers work. And then for us to get that was debilitating to all of us. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. When you say like, how did I get through it? I had to go to therapy, and I had to rely on God a lot to be able to say like, why? I had to do some self-checking as myself as an instructional leader. Is, you know, am I deep in the trenches like I should be? And I had to self-reflect that I had missed the ball on some things. Walkthroughs were the sake of numbers rather than purpose. So I had to tighten up on some of my practices too. I had to tighten up on some accountability and stop being a people pleaser, and really focusing on the instruction that's going on, but giving them the support that they needed. It was tough, Todd. I'm not going to tell you. There were some times that I blew up at staff where I usually never do that. But the stress of that tier 3 status, or people coming in, broke me. And I think God does some things. He brings you down so you can look up. And I believe that it made us the best year ever by being a tier 3 campus, because we had to really self-check ourselves through the process to be able to see what we needed to change. But my focus was, if every child grows, then we've done what we're supposed to. I don't care about passing, but if we can get every child to grow, then we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. When we got our 5th grade scores, we had like a 92% growth. in math and like a 72% growth in reading. So I was not really worried about the 81% or 87%. All I wanted to know was like, tell me how many of our kids have grown, because that's what it's about. I believe in accountability, but growth is the thing that really shows who we are as teachers.
Yeah.
Before we got our scores, unfortunately, the day that we got back from spring break, we found out that one of our sixth grade students had been killed in a go-kart accident. And that was life-changing for us also, because the teacher had asked every student to put a word on their desk for them to be able to get through the year. And his word was hope. So when we think of hope, you and I, we think, hope for a better country, hope for better for our kids, hope for just the good in things. But his hope was to pass the STAR test. And that killed us, because it's like, how have we come to a point where kids are focusing on hope to pass a test? And that was so hard for us to be able to know that that was his hope, was for a darn test. So we had to really dig deep on that and be able to say, we know that accountability is important, but we're bigger than a test, and our kids are bigger than a test. And just to be able to get back and building on those relationships, because you know how it is when it's start crunch time. Sometimes we get a little crazy, but we needed to be able to back off for a little bit and to be able to say, you know what, if this kid leaves me today, what is it that we're going to remember? And it's not going to be a STAR test. What memories have I been able to create? So, experiences like that, and just being humbled. And like I said, I had shame as a principal, and I had to be able to deal with that shame, because we are supposed to have no feelings and strip ourselves of showing any type of weakness. And I had to be able to let that go. And through the help of, like I said, God and a therapist, I'm not afraid to be able to say that, because so many times we put this front up, but principalship is a lonely job. But this has been my best year ever, 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 ever.
Well, I want to tell you that I think that through this conversation alone and your transparency and vulnerability, I feel like you're speaking to so many people right now, not only with the accolades you bring behind you and the success and the hard work that you've put in, and all the countless things that can be used to show that hard work. But I think when you show that human element of yourself, of yes, but it's still really hard. And not only is it so hard, but that you also have the ability to say, and I had to go get help, religious help, and a counselor. And I think that that's important to know that, the more we talk about it, the more we release the stigma of mental health and taking care of yourself, and knowing when it's okay to say, I don't know how to work through this. I need help working through this. I'm sure that was difficult for you to come to, because I know that you really try to be a really strong person, a really powerful person. And I know that in so many ways that we're raised, that's viewed as a sign of weakness. So what was that tipping point for you to know that you could set yourself aside to say, I need to seek out more help for me?
I was tired of being angry, to be honest with you. And I knew that I couldn't be an angry leader and get us to where we needed to be able to be. And when I say I was angry, I didn't lash out at people every time, but I had the anger with myself, because I felt that how can you be the National Distinguished Principal and be a Tier 3 school? Like, that makes no sense to me. And like I said, I thought I had all the answers, that we had done it, everything. And I went to the GROW conference actually in October for TEPSA. And there was a speaker there that said, if you don't take time for yourself, or if you die today, they will replace you tomorrow. So you have to decide, do you want to live your best life as an educator and do the best, or do you want to live in anger and, not health? That you got to give yourself at least 30 minutes a day to do something for you. So I'm an avid get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go do my exercise for 30 minutes and start taking or
Yeah,
myself.
I see your post about that, and I think
Yes.
Dana is crazy because you are all into that CrossFit, doing all this stuff way
Yeah.
in the morning. I'm like, I don't know where you getting it from.
You do, but you know what? I know at the end of the day, I'm so tired and I won't do that for myself. And there's days that we don't get out till late. And then I've put other things in front of me. So I knew the sacrifice had to be made for me to be able to do that. So the morning worked better for me. But, it was just living the same thing that we would want our kids to do. And the same process as teachers, when we have a kiddo who's failing, we can't be angry at them. We work with them to help them, the whole RTI process and everything that we do, but it's the whole mind, body, and soul. I had to just self-check myself and put the strong Black woman syndrome down for a while and just be Dana. And really, I can't take care of a school, can't take care of my family if I'm not taking care of myself first. And I had to be able to allow myself to just be vulnerable. Right. And that's hard. Yeah. But that's the best thing, that decision that I've made, is to be able to say it's okay not being perfect. You don't know all the answers to everything, and you can definitely ask for help, because there are people that are much smarter than you that are on your admin team, and you got to be able to trust and support them, and the teachers that they don't want to see anybody fail. And if you give them the support that they need and trust, but also hold the accountability, we're going to be okay. And that's exactly what started to happen. And it's just been the most amazing year this year. I am extremely, extremely blessed with the hard work that my teachers have put forth this year.
I love it. Well, Dana, my last question I always like to ask my guests is, we've talked about a lot during this episode, but if there is one thing that you wish people would walk away with, what is that one thing?
Gosh, live each day as if it is your last. If there is something or someone that you see that you know that you can make the difference, a kid, a teacher, someone in your family, for yourself, tomorrow's not promised. I saw that with so many instances this year, family, friends, church members. So I would say live each day as if it's your last. And if you know it's your last day on earth, then you're going to give your best in everything that you do, and you're not going to have any regrets with anything that you do. So, that's the best, that is the best words that I can give, because I know if God told me I was going to die today, and you too, Todd, you would do everything possible to show love, to be able to do, I want to just use with your mom. If you knew that that was going to be the last day with your mom, you would have given her every single thing possible for that. Because we're always like, we should have did this or we should have did that. So we live what we have now with this breath now, doing the best that we can, and we won't have any regrets. Yes.
And that couldn't be a better end. Well, Dana, I love you, your work. I love that you are exactly who you portray yourself to be, and that you pour all of yourself into your kids and your staff and your family. And I just thank you for the leadership example you set for so many, and then for also coming on here and being brave and vulnerable for the world to see. And I just admire and appreciate you so much.
Well, we love you. You're doing the same thing. So I'm just grateful that you gave me this opportunity, and you keep doing what you're doing, changing the lives that you're doing also, Todd. Don't underestimate the power that you're doing for others too.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody who is listening or watching as well. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. You can check out this interview as well as many others on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And I hope through Dana's conversation tonight that you've been inspired to tell more of your story, because remember how we end every week is that every story matters. Have a great night, everyone.